I'm 81 years old and I left my husband when I was 75. 6 years ago. After 52 years of marriage. And the only thing I regret, the only thing that keeps me up some nights, is that I didn't do it 40 years sooner. I know how that sounds. I know what people think when they hear a woman my age say something like that. They think bitterness. They think she's rewriting history. They think she must have forgotten all the good years. I haven't forgotten anything. I remember every year, that's the problem. I met Harold in 1967. I was 23. He was 26, working at his father's insurance company, already wearing suits that made him look 10 years older. He had a firm handshake. That's what my mother noticed first. She said, "That's a man who knows what he wants." And he did. He wanted a wife. He wanted children. He wanted a house with a yard and a car in the driveway and dinner on the table at 6. He wanted someone to manage his home the way he managed accounts, efficiently, quietly, without complaint. I didn't know that's what I was signing up for. I thought I was signing up for love. Maybe I was. Maybe that's what love looked like in 1967. I honestly don't know anymore. We got married in the spring of 1969. I wore my mother's dress, taken in at the waist. Harold cried during the vows, which surprised everyone. I remember thinking, he feels things, he just doesn't show it. I spent the next 5 decades waiting for him to show it again. The early years weren't bad. I need to say that clearly. They weren't bad. We had 2 children. Daniel in 1971, Rebecca in 1974. I stayed home with them. Harold worked. That was the arrangement, and I didn't question it because no one I knew questioned it. That was just how things were done. I cooked, I cleaned, I volunteered at the school. I hosted his work dinners and laughed at jokes that weren't funny and wore dresses he picked out because he said I had no eye for colour. I didn't argue. I didn't even notice I wasn't arguing. I just agreed. Year after year I agreed. And Harold wasn't cruel, I want to be clear about that. He never raised a hand to me. He never screamed. He never drank too much or gambled or cheated. At least not that I know of. He was just absent. Even when he was sitting right next to me. There's a kind of loneliness that's hard to explain to people who haven't lived it. It's not the loneliness of being alone. It's the loneliness of being with someone who doesn't see you, who looks at you and sees a function, a role, a list of tasks completed or not completed. Harold saw me as the person who kept his house running. That's not nothing, I understand that. But it's also not everything. It's not even close to everything. I remember once in maybe 1983, I told him I was thinking about going back to school. I'd always wanted to study art history. I used to spend hours in the library as a girl, looking at books about painters, imagining what it would be like to stand in front of a Vermeer. Harold looked up from his newspaper and said, "What for?" Not dismissive exactly, just genuinely confused. Like I'd said I wanted to learn how to breathe. What would be the point? I never brought it up again. The children grew up. They moved away. Daniel to California, Rebecca to Chicago. They call on holidays. They visit when they can. They have their own lives now, full lives, and I'm proud of them. But when they left, the house got very quiet. And quiet in a marriage like mine is not peaceful. It's loud. It's deafening. Because suddenly there's no buffer, no distraction, no reason to pretend you're too busy to notice that the person sitting across from you at dinner has nothing to say to you. Harold and I would eat in silence. Not angry silence, just silence. Like 2 strangers sharing a waiting room. I started to wonder if this was normal. If every marriage ended up like this. If love was just something that burned off over time like morning fog, and what was left was just routine. I told myself it was normal. For years I told myself that The thing about staying in a marriage you should have left is that you don't realize you're doing it. Every day feels like just one more day. You wake up, you make coffee, you go through the motions, and then one day becomes 10 years. 10 years becomes 20, and suddenly you're 67 years old, standing in your kitchen, realizing you can't remember the last time your husband asked you how you were feeling. Not, how was your day? That's transactional. I mean, really asked. Looked you in the eyes and wanted to know what was happening inside you. I couldn't remember. I still can't. I started keeping a journal when I turned 70. Just a small notebook, nothing fancy. I'd write in it at night after Harold went to bed. At first I wrote about ordinary things, the weather, what I'd cooked, a bird I'd seen outside the window. But after a few months the entries started to change. I started writing things I'd never said out loud. I don't think he loves me. I don't think he ever did. I feel invisible. I'm so tired of being grateful for so little. Seeing those words in my own handwriting, that was the beginning of something. I didn't know what yet, but something shifted. The summer I turned 74, my sister Ellen got sick. Pancreatic cancer. She was gone in 3 months. Ellen was 2 years younger than me. She'd been divorced since 1989, lived alone in a little apartment in Santa Fe, painted watercolours, had a cat named Bishop. She wasn't rich, she wasn't famous. But when I visited her in the hospital, near the end, she held my hand and said, "I lived exactly the life I wanted." She meant it. I could see it in her face. No regret, no apology. I flew home after the funeral and walked into my house and looked at Harold sitting in his chair, watching television, and I thought, I will never be able to say what Ellen said. Not if I stay here. Not if I die in this house. That thought wouldn't leave me. I didn't make the decision overnight. It took almost a year. I thought about the children, what they would think, what people at church would say. I thought about money, logistics, where I would even go. But mostly I thought about time, how little of it I had left, how I'd already spent so much of it waiting for things to get better, waiting for Harold to change, waiting for some sign that I mattered to him. I was 75 years old. I could not afford to wait anymore. I told Harold on a Sunday morning in October. I said, "I'm leaving. I've already found an apartment. I'm not asking for permission. I just wanted you to know." He stared at me for a long time, then he said, "Is there someone else?" That's what he asked. After 52 years. Not, "What did I do wrong?" Not, "Can we talk about this?" Just, "Is there someone else?" I said no, because there wasn't. There was just me, finally choosing myself. He nodded slowly and went back to his coffee. That was it. That was the end of my marriage. The apartment I found was small, 600 square feet, 1 bedroom, a little balcony overlooking a courtyard. The first night I stayed there, I sat on the floor because my furniture hadn't arrived yet, and I cried. Not because I was sad, because I was relieved. I hadn't known how heavy it all was until I put it down. People ask me if I'm lonely now. I am sometimes. Of course I am. I'm 81 years old living alone. Loneliness is part of the deal. But here's what I've learned. There's a difference between being lonely and being erased. Loneliness is uncomfortable, but being erased, being unseen by the person who's supposed to know you best, that's unbearable. I just didn't realize it until I got out. Now I eat what I want. I sleep when I want. I read books Harold would have called pointless. I took a watercolor class last spring. I'm not very good, but I don't care. I'm doing it for me. I have friends now. Real friends, not just other wives making small talk at company dinners. Women who ask me questions and actually listen to the answers. I talk to my children more than I used to. They were shocked at first, Daniel especially, but they've come around. Rebecca told me last Christmas that she was proud of me. That meant more than I can say. I think about Harold sometimes. He's still in the house, still sitting in that chair, probably. I don't hate him. I don't think I ever did. I just couldn't keep disappearing into his life and calling it a marriage. If you're listening to this and you're young, or even if you're not young, if you're my age and still wondering if it's too late, I want to tell you something. It's not too late. I know that sounds like the kind of thing people say on greeting cards, but I mean it. I left at 75. I've had 6 years since then, 6 years of actually living. That's not nothing. That's a lot. You don't get the lost years back. I know that. I'll never get my 30s back, my 40s, my 50s. I'll never know who I could have been if I'd left sooner, if I'd trusted myself, if I'd believed I deserved more. That grief is real, I carry it with me. But I refuse to add to it. I refuse to waste what's left. I don't know how much time I have. Nobody does, I suppose. But I feel it more now. The edges of things, the way mornings come faster, the way people I know keep dying. I'm not afraid, exactly. I've made my peace with it. I just want to be awake for whatever's left, present, honest. I spent too many years asleep in my own life. I won't do that anymore. I'm not telling you to leave your marriage. I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm just telling you my story. What I lived. What I learned. You have to decide for yourself what your life is worth, what you're willing to accept, what you're not. But if something in this resonated with you, if you recognized yourself in any of it, then maybe that's worth sitting with. Not forever. Just long enough to hear what it's trying to tell you. I'll leave you with this. The other day I was sitting on my little balcony drinking tea, watching the sun come up, and I thought, this is mine, this moment, this quiet, this peace. Nobody gave it to me, I took it. At 75 years old I finally took what was mine, and that's something I'll never regret. Thank you for listening. If any of this meant something to you, I'd be grateful to hear it. Not for me, really, just because it helps to know we're not alone in these things. Take care of yourselves, and take care of your time. It goes faster than you think.